expeditious coordination with our national security partners is not to be underestimated. There have been numerous cases where our unilateral and uncoordinated revocation of a visa would have disrupted important investigations that were underway by one of our national security partners. They had the individual under investigation, and our revocation action would have disclosed U.S. government's interest in that individual and ended our colleagues' ability, such as the FBI, to pursue the case quietly and to identify terrorist plans and co-conspirators.
Let me get to Mr. Abdul Muttalib for one moment. Information became available last year to the State Department from his father, and as I understand, that information was reviewed as to whether there was a visa outstanding in regards to that individual, and because of the misspelling of the name, it didn't pop up on your data search. Is that correct?
That is correct, Senator. We did, though, put the name correctly into our lookout system, and the lookout system went to all the agencies in Washington, and a longer classified message describing more in-depth conversations with his father went in with the correct spelling, and the two were married up in a single file in Washington. And so the misspelling, our error, was obviated by the second message that paired up with it, sir.
But it never never gave you the information at the time that a visa was outstanding. If it did, if it would have shown that he had been issued a visa in 2008, was there sufficient information available for you to take action in regards to that visa?
No, sir. There was not sufficient information from his father, nor do we take preemptive action, because, as I mentioned earlier, we always consult with our law enforcement and intelligence community partners before we revoke a visa to make sure the individual is not a subject of investigation and that we would compromise their investigation.
Are you saying that even if it would have popped up that he had a visa outstanding, you would have not taken any action to revoke that visa?
There was insufficient information to immediately revoke the visa, and also following the protocols that have been in place since 2001, we check with our partners in the intelligence and law enforcement communities to make sure that our revoking that visa does not tip him off that he is under surveillance by one of our partners in the national security community, and thus our action would have compromised their ability, let me hypothetically state, to roll up a larger terrorism ring.
We don't know what would have happened if you made that inquiry.
We did notify, we did put his name correctly spelled into our database that was available to law enforcement and the intelligence community personnel.
And no dots were connected from that we are aware of prior to Christmas?
Sir, that is something that is outside.
He didn't go on any watch list, did he?
No, sir. If the intelligence or law enforcement communities had come back to the State Department and said, we have other information on this individual in addition to the information you, the State Department, has provided us, we are putting him on one of the lists, we would have we would have revoked that visa in coordination with law enforcement and intelligence.
So DHS had the information prior to Christmas Day, but did not have any reliable information to act? Is that where we are?
He was neither on the watch list, nor a no-fly list, nor a selectee list, and so there was no check against those lists would have come up with anything.
Whose responsibility was it to look into that information and determine as to whether he was actively involved in al-Qaeda in Yemen? No one seems to want to answer that.
Secretary Kennedy, the State Department didn't realize the suspect in the Christmas Day attempted bombing possessed a visa until after he initiated his action on the flight. The consular officer sent the first notice that was given to the National Counterterrorism Center, initially misspelled the name, as we talked about. But within days, an amended notice was sent to NCTC with the corrected spelling. Why didn't the consular officer not check the visa status of the Nigerian national at the time a second notice was sent?
He did not do that, Mr. Chairman.
I know he didn't do it, but why not?
Because the second message was launched from another source.
Well,
as I mentioned in my statement, Mr. Chairman, if we unilaterally revoked a visa, and there was a case recently up, we have a request from a law enforcement agency to not revoke the visa. We came across information. We said, this is a dangerous person. We were ready to revoke the visa. We then went to the community and said, should we revoke this visa? And one of the members, and we'd be glad to give you that in private, said, please do not revoke this visa. We have eyes on this person. We are following this person who has the visa for the purpose of trying to roll up an entire network, not just stop one person. So we will revoke the visa of any individual who is a threat to the United States. But we do take one preliminary step. We ask our law enforcement and intelligence community partners, do you have eyes on this person, and do you want us to let this person proceed under your surveillance so that you may potentially break a larger plot?
Well, I think the point that I'm trying to get at is this just another box you checking, or is there some security value to adding that box
Yes.
to the list?
The intelligence and law enforcement community tell us that they believe in certain cases that there's a higher value of them following this person so they can find his or her co-conspirators and roll up an entire plot against the United States rather than simply knock out one soldier in that effort.
why wouldn't it may have been launched from another source, but why wasn't it checked?
Because we did not have access at the embassy to that other reporting, Mr. Chairman, and we had entered his name in the correct spelling into the database that is our watch list database, which was disseminated to all the appropriate agencies. We slipped up. I have no statement other than that, sir.
Thank you.
Do you agree that Abdul Muttalib would have been unable to enter the United States had he been required to obtain a new visa prior to his flight to Detroit?
We do continual reviews, and if we discover that the Terrorist Screening Center at the FBI or Homeland Security has elevated this person, we then revoke that visa immediately.
Yeah. Why wouldn't it be better to do it the way I'm suggesting?
Because, Senator, if the information is not if the dots are not connected, then the individual is going to get the visa, because there is no, when they applied for the new visa and we ran it against the database, if the dots are not connected and an individual has not been put on the list by one of the intelligence or law enforcement communities.
But he was on the list.
He was on no, sir, he was not on no-fly. He was not on the no-issuance list.
Right, but he was on the larger list.
Right.
And what I'm saying is, if the visa had to be applied for and you're from one of these 14 countries,
right,
then he wouldn't have gotten, if they would have seen him on this list, the bigger list, the 500,000 list, and they would have reviewed it more carefully.
That they review, yes, sir.
If they wouldn't, then something's profoundly wrong.
Senator, you're very correct that this all lies in connecting the dots.
And you don't have access to the TIDE database, right?
Yes, sir. We have access to the TIDE data. We are the people who caused his name to be put into the TIDE database when we filed the Visa Viper report. We caused his name.
Okay, as I understand it, you have access to what you put into the TIDE database, but not to the whole TIDE database. Is that correct?
That is. We have.
Is that correct? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, that is my point, isn't it?
But if someone is in the TIDE database, Senator, and that comes up on the TIDE database, we then send a message to the intelligence and law enforcement communities and say, should we issue this visa or not?